Okay. Welcome to the Wrestling Pod. I am your host, Carlito Santiago, and today we're here to talk about what went down at Crown Jewel 2025 in Perth, Australia, Western Australia. This year's event was the first time WWE has staged a Crown Jewel outside of Saudi Arabia. So fans in Western Australia we're excited to get a premium live event, especially during John Cena's farewell tour. We started off with, of course, an Australian street fight between Roman Reigns and Bronson Reed. The last time we saw Reigns and Bronson Reed was back at Clash of Paris. After all of the usual PLE opening procedures, Reed was the first man out for his Australian street fight against Roman Reigns. This was a rematch from Clash in Paris. The OTC won that encounter, so the Auszilla was looking to even the score. The crowd was singing for Reigns before he let loose with the first punches of the match. He started running Reed from corner to corner, with the crowd reacting louder to everything. It took a few minutes before the fight spilled out of the ring and into the crowd. The OTC remained in control as he used a garbage can as a weapon. The tribal chief was having a great time playing to the crowd. He even grabbed a mic and asked the fans if they want to see some tables, which obviously got them more excited. They'd have to acknowledge him. It took a long time for Reed to finally begin mounting some offense, but once he did, it became much more of a back and forth fight. Once Braun Breaker showed up to assist his teammate, it gave the Usos an opening to help Reigns. But unfortunately, Jay accidentally speared Roman through a table that was set up in the ring by Bronson Reed. Reed also went through a steel chair at one point that he had set up, which was the beginning of the end because Reed would hit a tsunami for the win. The match was made up of a series of small sequences. They would do a few things, and then there would be a momentary lull. Before they moved on to the next sequence. It's not usual for this kind of contest, but it's especially noticeable here. That being said, this was a decent match. It wasn't the violent spectacle WWE would have you believe it was, but it had some fun moments. Reed getting the W was the right call, especially if you're going to keep this moving forward. Graded a B, and I thought it was fun too. I predicted Roman Reigns, but you know what? That's okay. I figured that Bronson Reed was already getting the hometown feel, Once I heard the crowd cheer more for Reigns than Reed, it was pretty obvious. And then Braun Breaker coming out, it made more sense why Bronson Reed wins this. But he's only the second man to beat Roman Reigns in this match. He's only the second, I pinned Roman Reigns actually in a year. He's the only man to do so. This was a fun match. I love the opening. It was great. It was fun. You got a lot of sequences, and of course there was things to be packed. Also, Roman Reigns chucked a bottle of Prime at Reed, a couple of them. Rhea Ripley also narrated the open video package, and the crowd booed the U.S. national anthem, but sang along with the same woman who sang the Australian national anthem. So we're still booing the U.S. national anthem, and I still keep wondering why. I think a lot of people know why the fuck people outside of the U.S. are booing us and our national anthem, okay? I think we all fucking know why. Tiffany Stratton and Stephanie Vaquer were next. This was probably this one and the women's tag team match was probably the only bad thing on the card. Only bad thing on the card, honestly. Tiffany Stratton versus Vaquer. The Women's Crown Jewel Championship, Crown Jewel Ring. From now on, it's going to be called the Crown Jewel Ring, okay? Not the fucking championship. Because you don't see that champion. Because I'm still mad that WWE pulled Braun Strowman's Greatest Royal Rumble title away. And they didn't do anything about that. The Women's Crown Jewel Ring was up for grabs when Stephanie Vaquer faced Tiffany Stratton. Neither of their titles were on the line because it's champion versus championship, And, of course, the Crown Jewel belt won't be defended like a normal title. So this was purely a fight for pride and for a ring. The crowd chanted for both women as the bell rang. They circled each other a couple of times before locking up. They had a nice few exchanges, but when Stratton extended her hand as a sign of respect, Vakir kicked it away. La Primera was the more aggressive competitor. She wasn't working like a heel, but she wasn't leaning into being a babyface neither. So this puts us at an this puts us in like an anti-role. The longer this match went, the more competitive it felt. Both women used some moves we don't see from them often in an attempt to make this match stand out. They had a couple of sloppy spots, but the majority of what they did looked good. Stephanie Vakir also pulled out a victory after hitting a corkscrew moonsault to become the second women's crown jewel ring holder. Triple H presented her with the belt and the ring for winning, of course. So, yep. Stephanie Vakir wins. Got a prediction right there. And graded a B. This match was fine. Tiffany Stratton did a little bit of some work, obviously. She is really improved. She did that little, like, cartwheel into an Alabama Slam pinfall move, which I liked. I thought that was unique. More on Tiffany Stratton, though. More Tiffany Stratton needs to be shown on SmackDown in the women's division, of course. We need to be shown a little bit more. Maybe Zelina Vega needs to get up in there. Maybe hire back Dakota Kai or get her or do something with your women's division SmackDown. I mean, Raw is too goddamn good right now. It's too hot with women. Michael Cole made a joke about Wade Barrett getting into trouble for how he reacted to the Devil's Kiss the last time. That is true. And I like the Devil's Kiss. Of course, we got to see that with Tiffany Stratton in the ring. And Tiffany Stratton probably loved it too. Great to be. I think this was this one in the women's tag match, depending on how that was probably the only bad thing on the card. Everything else was great. Everything on this card was great. I mean, the women, that's just cherry picking at this point. The women's matches weren't that bad either. They were not terrible. So I'm glad to see this. But this match, ooh, you want to talk about greatness. You want to talk about fucking A++++ match. We got to talk about John Cena and AJ Styles. The final time you're going to see these guys in the ring together. The third match of the night was one of the most anticipated heading into the show. For the last time, John Cena and AJ Styles stepped into the ring to do battle. Both men got a warm welcome, but the crowd's reaction to Cena was definitely louder. Both men had special introductions by the ring announcer. Of course, this is also because AJ Styles will be retiring next year. Once the bell rang, they locked up and went to work. Styles applied a simple headlock to start. They weren't rushing into anything because they knew they had a lot of time to fill. Styles was a step ahead of Cena in their first few sequences, which led to a TNA chant from the crowd. After a few moments of the Phenomenal One outpacing the world champion, Cena started to look like a little gassed. He made a comeback, hit a 5-knuckle shuffle followed by an AA, but he failed to get the pin. When he tried to use the SDF, Styles countered into a crossface. It seemed like both men had a counter for everything they tried. They had a sequence which both men were using their own finishers and the moves from some other big rivals, but neither man could seal the deal, which was fine for the crowd for chanting "Fight Forever." They all made infamous chants here. They all made the infamous kind of like movesets. John Cena used a skull-crushing finale from The Miz. AJ Styles did a phenomenal for him, and I think AJ Styles did. AJ Styles did a. What did he do? I forget, but he did a move from Christopher Daniels. Did a Scorpion Death Drop. Cena did a Tombstone. Cena did. What else? Cena did AJ did Sweet Chin Music from Shawn Michaels. Almost teased the 619 by Cena. So, Cena also did the RKO from Randy Orton. Was this a 5-star match that will be talked about for years to come? No. Was it a fun encounter with lots of callbacks that allowed both men to shine? Abso-fucking-lutely. This may not be for everyone, but fans who liked it probably loved it. And yes, but the question, was this a 5-star match that will probably be talked about for years to come? Okay, to be talked about for years to come, probably not. But was this a 5-star match? You bet your fucking ass it was a 5-star match. You can't fucking, you know, maybe 450 or 475. If it's a 475 by Dave Meltzer, I'm gonna lose my shit. I'm gonna lose my fucking shit. No. This may not be for everyone, but the fans who liked it probably loved it, including myself. Cena and Styles have always been good dance partners, but it didn't feel like they were trying to outdo their previous performances. And that's a good thing. This was just two veterans having one last match to pop the crowd themselves. For roughly 30 minutes, Cena and Styles had the crowd eating out the palm of their hands. And it took a tombstone piledriver followed by an AA to put Styles down for the 3 count. John Cena winning this. Bray Wyatt. Oh, yeah. Cena hit the fucking Bray Wyatt move. He's Sister Abigail. And then we had the Fireflies out. So and it's funny when you think back to that because all those 3 men were the last 3 men in the Elimination Chamber match that led to Bray Wyatt winning the WWE Championship. And everybody was happy. But no, this is not even a B+. Fuck this. I'm going to change this to an A. A fucking A. It deserves a fucking A, not a B+. I'm sorry. This is 100% an A. You're only damping it because it might not be for everybody. But you got to give love to those people who fucking cared about this. This was a fucking A match. So, we're switching the grade to an A, ladies and gentlemen. So, I'm glad Bleacher Report did this. Okay. Finishers that were used in the Cena and Styles match. So, Cena hit a skull-crushing finale. Styles hit Sting's Scorpion Death Drop, but Cole didn't mention Sting by name. Cena used Ruse's Accolade. Then, of course, Styles used a Coquina Clutch by Samoa Joe. Cena would then pull out the Walls of Jericho and the Sister Abigail from Bray Wyatt and Chris Jericho. Then, Styles used Christopher Daniels' Angel's Wings. Yes, Cena would hit a draping DDT, rope-tang DDT, and an RKO. Styles would use, of course, John Cena's own AA against him. Styles also hit Frankie Kazarian's Fade to Black. John Cena used The Undertaker's Chokeslam. Styles used Sweet Chin Music from Shawn Michaels. And Cena would use a Tombstone. Thank you, Bleacher Report. Who fucking made this? Eric Beeston or Chris Moeller? Thank you for this. Thank you. I mentioned it. I tried to mention through name. But thank you for mentioning all of this. I will leave this right here so all you guys can see what moves were hit. From The Miz, from Sting, from Rusev, from Joe, Jericho, and Bray Wyatt, Christopher Daniels, Randy Orton, John Cena himself, Frank Kazarian, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker. Or you could even say Kane. You could say Kane. You could say Kane's Tombstone. But he's more referencing The Undertaker. But it's okay. I'm glad that they did this. I'm glad they did all of this. I think the Bray Wyatt one was my favorite. And I think my Bray Wyatt was my favorite. Because the crowds were all fucking, the Fireflies were out. All right, next. The Kabuki Warriors took on Io Sky and Rhea Ripley. Australia's favorite superstar was up next with Ripley partnering with Sky to take on Kairi Sane and Asuka in a tag team match. Ripley started the match, but it didn't feel like it got going until Sky tagged in. Early in the match, Asuka had made her feelings clear when she tried to offer a handshake, only to pull it away and yell at the Genius of the Sky. Ripley and Sane were taking breathers, so the Empress of Tomorrow and her former friend could have a long sequence to themselves. Sky had the upper hand, though, until Sane got involved again and helped Asuka send her into a ring post. Sky spent a long time on defense while the Kabuki Warriors double-teamed her. Sky and Asuka both tagged out in and out at the same time, and the crowd exploded when Ripley came in and started beating up both opponents. Of course, they wanted to do this, isolate one person, so then you can get the other one. And it was great that they used Sky to isolate and then get Ripley the biggest, because they're in fucking Australia. This was exactly what we all expected this match to be. All 4 women brought a lot of energy and physicality to the ring, so this was entertaining from start to finish. This wasn't a weak link. There wasn't a weak link. Everyone played a role and looked great in between the ropes. The ref gave a lot of leeway when it came to making non-legal partners leave the ring, so the second half of this involved all 4 women in most of the action. Zayn sacrificed herself, though, to save Asuka, but it led to her demise, as Ripley, of course, hit the Riptide, then for Io Sky to hit her finisher to seal the win. So, again, the show had already been going for almost 2 hours when this match started, but only about 60 minutes of it was wrestling. The rest was video, backstage stuff, and then, yeah, a bunch of other shit. The way Zayn took the Razor's Edge from Ripley looked brutal. Of course. This was great, a B+, and there was this was match kind of we were going through things here. That's why I saw this Rio. That's why I was saying Rio put on the show. Rhea Ripley and Io. Rio. I like it. But anyway, this whole story was just to make their partnership closer together, bring their partnership closer together. So it wasn't, it wasn't anything that special. You know what I mean? We knew it was going to happen. They were going to give Rhea Ripley the win. And then we had the main event, which I knew this was going to go down. Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Part 4. The main event was the men's crown jewel ring. Or for the men's crown jewel ring. Between Rhodes and Rollins. WWE made sure to remind us several times that Rhodes had a perfect 3-0 record against the Visionary heading into the show. The American Nightmare came out of the gates hot and sent Rollins out of the ring to throw a tantrum. Rhodes came after him, but the Visionary took control. He started working over his opponent's leg and taunting him. Every match these two have had has been great, and there's no exception. Or this one was no exception. This likely won't be considered better than any of their previous encounters, but it told a different story than those matches. And this was about how desperate Rollins was to not let history repeat itself. He tried to use the watch Rhodes gave him as a weapon, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. This allowed the American Nightmare to make a comeback and hit a flurry of moves for a close 2 count. Both men took some big risks and had some close calls on the way to their finish. Rollins eventually used the watch as a weapon behind the referee's back, hitting a super stomp for the win to become the new men's crown jewel champion, or garner the first ring. Now, I want you guys to take a good look at Rollins. The cartwheel from Rollins to referee Stardust was funny. The Visionary had a big pop, pushing over the Prime cart. But one thing I noticed. Notice Seth Rollins' attire, ladies and gentlemen. Notice Seth Rollins' attire. Let me get to that. Get to a bit where you see. Okay, so you guys could probably see. Maybe right about here. So, if you guys can see, let me pull this out. You guys can see this. You see the top part of his gear right here, right? That's from his last encounter with Cody Rhodes, wearing the black and dusty black and yellow spotted gear. The second one. Actually, let me never mind that. Alright, it's probably the best call you're going to get. So you got the black and yellow gear spotted right here. This is from their last encounter from the Hell in a Cell, right? This brown gear, which is so forgettable, it was the gear that Rollins used at Backlash when he faced Cody Rhodes again. And then, of course, you got this blue underline. This was from the WrestleMania that Cody Rhodes came back. I love the detail on Rollins' wardrobe. It was fucking cool. If you missed it, go look at it again. If you don't believe me, go look at WrestleMania 38. Go back and watch the Backlash after WrestleMania 38. And go watch the Hell in a Cell match where Rhodes had a torn pec and Rollins and him faced each other inside the Hell in a Cell. So, graded an A-. And of course, Heyman did not accompany Rollins to the ring. Which is another thing. He wanted to do this all on his own. But he had to cheat in order to win. I'm going to stick with the A- simply because Rollins could not put away the victory and seal the deal. But this was a great encounter as for what it was worth. Rollins defeating Rhodes was the right call, of course. Building story off of it. So what was the final word? Well, on paper, Crown Jewel was a fairly standard WWE pay-per-view. It had 5 matches, mostly predictable outcomes. And it had a ton of ads and filler to pad the runtime. However, the show was different because it didn't feature a single match for one of WWE's regular titles. The only gold on the line came from the Crown Jewel belts, which are little more than trophies presented to the winners of champion versus champion matches. From a technical perspective, Rollins and Rhodes had the best match of the night, but the fan service perspective, John Cena and Styles had the fans on edge of their seats. Yes, if you want to go technical, Rollins and Rhodes was the best match of the night. Styles and Cena was from a fan service perspective. Cena and Styles was probably the best match of the night. But again, I think both are equally matched. The outcome of the match wasn't surprising, but how we got there was. Their use of several finishers from their biggest rivals gave this about a unique vibe. It wasn't about stealing the show. It was about two guys having their final performance together and paying homage to some important people in their careers. Reed getting a win over Reigns, even with the interference, is a big fucking deal. As Cole pointed out, he's only the second person to pin the OTC in recent years. So the Ozilla just joins the exclusive club. Both women's matches were good, but the tag bout was one of the highlights of the night. Again, like I said, Tiffany and Vakir was probably the only bad thing, but that match wasn't even that bad. It was good for what it was worth. Every match has something to like about it, but it will likely be Cena and Styles and Rhodes and Rollins that are talked about for the coming days. Cena only has a few dates left, 4 to be exact now. He's got the 2 nights in November, Boston and New York, San Diego for Survivor Series, which is rumored to face Dominic Mysterio for the IC title. And, of course, Washington, D.C., where it all started off, where Cena had told Triple H and Shawn Michaels, back to the Chris Van V podcast again, it was Survivor Series 09, Cena versus fucking Triple H versus Shawn Michaels. That night, Cena wanted to do what DX are doing. And Triple H and Shawn tell him, we're just having fun. We're going out there to have fun. You are here to be the now. So you be the now. You go out there and you be champion. You stay champion. That's why, and it was in Washington, D.C. that night happened. So I figured there was a reason why we're ending in Washington, D.C. But John Cena only has a few dates left of this farewell tour, so it's going to be interesting to see how WWE uses that time. 4 more dates. B+ for the entire show from Bleacher Report, and to me personally, I don't think it gets a B+. I think it gets an A-. It gets an A-. I think the show was pretty good. This did feel like, with 5 matches on the card, obviously you could say like maybe so. But if I did not change the grade for the AJ Styles in it, it would probably be a B+. So because I changed the grade to an A, it's getting an A-. You can fuck off with all of what it is. A- 100% there. So yeah. This was Crown Jewel. What did you guys think of the pay-per-view? Let me know in the comments down below. I thought that was great, and to be honest with you, Cena and Styles was great, and so was the main event. Cody Rhodes and Rollins. I was very happy about that. Very excited to see that. And then, of course, again, the only match that was not to say disappointing, but was that wasn't that fun, was Tiffany Stratton and Stephanie Vakir. The only letdown, I guess the only match to let down. But it wasn't even a letdown. It wasn't that bad. It was, if I had to, again, it's cherry picking. You know, I would say, like, I'd put this last, but they had a fun match. Or, like, I don't know what word to use. Because it was a bit fun, but at the same time it wasn't. You know what I mean? Or you know what I mean? So, this was Crown Jewel. I'm glad that all of this went fairly well. I will be back, or Lewis will be back tomorrow to give you the rundown of what happened, of course, what's going to be happening today, Sunday, NFL. I will be back Tuesday to give you the Raw review after Crown Jewel. And, of course, next Saturday I'll be back to give you, of course, the rundown from what happened on Friday Night SmackDown. I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Peace!